Hey everyone, these are my top 4 favorite bands. Number 4 is Creedence Clearwater Revival. John Fogerty was basically the driving force behind Creedence. He created this whole Southern American Bayou, Louisiana, Cajun atmosphere. He was really a triple threat. He had a great voice, he was a great guitarist, and he was an excellent songwriter. He's a great example of how you could be a great guitarist, fun to listen to, come up with tasty licks, while not being quite at the level of other guitar greats. So many great songs, just hit after hit, Green River, Born in the Bayou, Fortunate Son, Down on the Corner, Up Around the Bend, Looking Out My Back Door. Have you ever seen the rain? They put out so many good songs in just a few years. Number 3 is Queen. I just can't say enough about these guys. Freddie Mercury, one of my all-time favorite singers. Brian May, one of my all-time favorite guitarists. They just put out so much good stuff, and it's one of those deals where every song just has that really polished feel. Like you can tell every single song they released meant something, and it was important, and they made sure it was good as it could be. Brian May's harmonies on his guitar work is just outstanding. Bohemian Rhapsody is one of the great masterpieces of all time. Freddie Mercury's voice is just so much energy. Sometimes I compare Freddie Mercury's voice with Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitar playing. It's like every single note Freddie Mercury ever sang meant something. It's like every single note he ever sang, he poured his heart and his soul into it. Kind of the same with Stevie Ray's guitar playing. They also had a lot of variety in the stuff they did. If you listen to the News of the World album, obviously the rock stuff, slower, more ballad type stuff, calypso, and even jazz on there. Obviously we lost Freddie too soon. I would have loved to have seen what they would have done throughout the years. My number 2 all-time band and my number 1 hard rock band is definitely Led Zeppelin. Jimmy Page was so creative with all of his stuff. And yes, I know he copied some stuff here and there, but you can't take away of all the stuff he created himself. A word I often use to describe Jimmy is quirky. His riffs just had that quirky feel, just where you don't quite expect what's gonna happen next. Just so interesting, so much fun to listen to. Just from their first album, they were already just thinking outside the box on so many different things. They combined blues, hard rock, and acoustic music. Just so good. All 4 members of the band were excellent in their own areas. And I'm not one of those people who's gonna hold Stairway to Heaven like way up here. To me, it's a good song, but when I think of Led Zeppelin, I think of so many other songs besides just Stairway. John Bonham might also be my favorite drummer of all time. He was doing the double bass kick stuff before double bass drums, I think, were even invented. When you look at what he's doing on Good Times, Bad Times, that's one bass pedal. And just like with Freddie Mercury and Queen, we lost John Bonham way too young. It would have been awesome to see what they would have done throughout the 80s. But we have some great stuff from them already, so I love Led Zeppelin. Number 1 is definitely the Beatles. I love the Beatles so much. I actually ranked every Beatles song, all of them, my favorites, so that tells you how much I love the Beatles. John and Paul were both great singers, excellent songwriters. They each had their own style, which contributed to the variety they had with the kinds of songs they wrote. The Beatles never stood still artistically. If you look at every single album they made, they are constantly changing their style from one album to the next. The band they finished up as in 1970 looked nothing like they were 8 years earlier. There's no comparison to anything else that was out in the 60s. They touched on every style, whether it be pop, blues, psychedelic, rock, Indian sitar music, old school 1920s vibes. Whether an artist today says it or not, they were somehow influenced by the Beatles. You can trace it back. They changed pop music as well as pretty much every other kind of music. And there is no way I would have them any less than number 1 on my list.